Hello AOS fans, it's me, Pete. As always, this Friday, Robin and I will be meeting up again for another bout of Shadespire, and I am going to be running through my deck with you. This week it's all about those furry little rat men, the Skaven. I think this is possibly only maybe my half-dozenth game with Skaven. Can you have half-dozenth? Not played a lot of them. Have been watching a lot, been reading a lot about them. Very impressed to see how they did in the Grand Clash. I liked seeing that a lot. So, with that in mind, I've built a deck that mostly doesn't have a lot of objectives in it. I can hear the collective sigh from you all. I do seem to suffer a little bit trying to come up with a deck that seems to go against the grain of an army, but hear me out, hear me out. I have got a few things in there that I think will help me considerably. I'm still going for a mixed deck at the moment. I can't quite bring myself to go for objectives 1 to 5 and all of the tactical supremacies or anything like that, but we'll see. I'll maybe try that out in a little bit in the future. I'm also trying to build these decks with flexibility in mind, so I'm not customizing it specifically just against the person I'm coming up against. This game it is Skaven versus khorne, so it's going to be a very mobile match all round. So anyway, I shall show you the deck I've got and we can see where it goes. So objectives. I'll start there as always, and my first objective is leading from the back. Depending on how badly things are going, I can always run Skritch around and around and around, Benny Hill style, and at the very end just try and make sure that he's back in my zone with no one near him if I get this card at the end. Next is Skritch is the greatest. With the Chuckle Brothers running around, Arnold from Targor, they've got a target on their back, and if I can get Skritch over to stab them, that'll be an extra glory for me. Cover ground, move 6 hexes. Well, Skaven move 5 already. If I can get my sprint or my +1 move off, then that will be a given. Crushing force. Now, I know Skaven aren't the most heavy hitting of forces, but I quite like the idea of crushing force, although I do acknowledge the fact that it might not be quite so flexible, and I may have taken that one a bit more khorne based, basically because Arnold from Targor. I might swap that out for precise use of force, or possibly the other one, which is kill somebody if you've only got a 1 damage attack on them that kills them. But we'll see, we'll see. Divide and conquer, he's going to be after me, I'm going to be after him. We're going to get mixed up around the board, and I think in general that always happens at some point, so divide and conquer I think is a handy one to have. It does rely on your opponent a bit though, so maybe that one will have to get moved out for something else. Escalation, pretty much always going to be in my deck I think. Play 3 upgrades. It can be yours, it can be your opponent's, it can be a mix of the two. I'm going to have that one. Make a statement. Now Skaven have got the speed to hopefully pull this off, although if they're up against somebody who's after objectives it might be a tough one to take, but I think for 3 glory it's worth a punt. Master of War. This one is play a ploy, play an upgrade, get an objective. Hopefully I can use some of the other stuff in my deck to really push that in my favour, but I'm hoping after round 1 I can get this drop and that'll be pretty easy to score then. Ploy Master, play 3 ploys, pretty easy and nearly always going to be in my deck. Supremacy, this is a given for Skaven I think. Grab 3 objectives. Skaven are all about jumping on objectives early I think with their speed, so that one's a given, even if I've only got 2 in my territory. And then I've got Tactical Supremacy 1 and 2 and Tactical Supremacy 3 and 4. So both of those are my nod towards the objective side of things along with Supremacy. I think that they should be quite easy to get. So those are my objectives, and then on to my upgrades that I will be buying with all that glorious glory. Expendable. I think this could be a very handy card, although it probably needs an FAQ to really clarify it. I would definitely take this card more often if I knew that it doesn't give your opponent a glory when you remove your Skaven. It does a damage, you can take the Skaven off. If it robbed your opponent of a glory as well, even better than that. So I would use this, chuck one of my Skaven up close, grab an objective hopefully from under his nose, and then play Expendable in the hope that he's going to attack that Skaven and I can do a bit of extra damage. Festering Blade, I think this is nearly always going to be in my deck as well, offensive or objective. The Festering Skaven rolls 2 dice, 3 once inspired, and this will do 2 extra damage if you roll a crit. That's 3 damage. That makes him almost as hard hitting as someone like Seik, and people don't remember that. I think even when you've played the card they tend to forget the Festering Skaven, and that can be a nasty surprise because that can one-shot a lot of people. Demonic Weapon, I think for Skaven and Sepulchral Guard who can bring people back, or somebody like Orcs or Dwarves who have a lot of wounds, this could be a good card. Although for Dwarves anyway, they do a lot of damage, so they don't really need something that's going to cause them damage first. It's great for Orcs, they take damage and get inspired, but then it doesn't really matter if they're inspired, you're still going to use this weapon instead because their attacks still aren't that great. But for my Skaven and for my Spiteclaw Guard, Demonic Weapon's nearly always going to be a given because I can play it on a lowly Skaven and I can bring them back from the dead once they get killed because they're going to become a target. I can attack with them, stick them on an objective I know Robin's going to want, and he'll kill them off. I can bring them back and attack again. Great Fortitude, +1 wound is always handy, and maybe if I play Demonic Weapon on the Skaven, I might give them the Great Fortitude +1 wound as well. Means they can hopefully do another attack before they die. Great Strength, +1 damage. Playing that on the Festering Skaven puts him up to 4 damage for all a crit if he's got the Festering Blade. Or I can give it to Skritch, who once inspired does 3 damage and that will put him up to 4, or give it to whoever's got the Demonic Weapon, that means they're up to 4 damage as well. All of those might help me with Crushing Force, but I'm still not 100% sure if I'm going to keep Crushing Force, but I am for this match at least. The next one's Legendary Swiftness, +1 move will help me get cover ground, and it'll just make my Skaven even more super nippy anyway. And then I've got all 4 keys, the Blazing, Shadow, Dazzling and Fractured keys. My hope is they come around near the end, I can play them in the very last activation, I can just run a load of Skaven around, jump on as many objectives as I can. Could possibly be up to an extra 8 glory depending on how things go, that would be mental. And then after that, my ploys, the cards I'm going to be using to try and help me score the objectives, to gain the glory, to buy the upgrades, to mash Robin's face. First one is Musk of Fear. I've never been one for using guard a lot. I think it works best if you've got a card that enables you to go on guard. I know you can go on guard as an action, but there's nearly always something else I'd rather do with my activations. But Musk of Fear is great, not only because it puts them on guard and enables them to roll shields as well, because they only roll, most of them only roll dodges, but also because it inspires them straight away, so they go from 1 defense dice to 2 defense dice. So it's going to, with 1 card, put a Skaven on 2 defense dice, rolling shields, dodges or crits. It's a proper nice card. Next one is Sudden Skittering. It's a sprint card for Skaven. It's tempting to take sprint as well, but I haven't in this deck. I was going to take sprint, but then I thought, well, I might as well take the Skaven flavoured version. Skaven flavour. Scratching in the Shadows. It's distraction, but the Skaven flavoured version. Skaven flavoured again. Then there's always more. Pretty much always going to take this in a Skaven deck, I think. The ability to pop somebody up in a power step, hopefully just for one of my turns, is going to be great, especially if it's a Skaven who's just died with the Demonic Weapon, or I want to dump somebody right in the backfield on Robin's side of the board, or anyone's side of the board really, not just Robin. Confused priorities. I'm going after objectives. If my opponent's going after objectives, and a lot of them are going to be going after objectives, then this helps me swap a few round to help me with Tactical Supremacy 1, 2, or 3 and 4, and also might help me out with the Blazing, Shadow, Dazzling or Fractured keys. Confusion, pretty much a given in a Skaven deck, I think. The ability to inspire 2 of my own guys, or use it to swap out one of mine and somebody else's. It's just such a useful card. I'm nearly always going to take Confusion, I think, in my decks. And then Earthquake. I know that people have gone on about Earthquake was going to break the meta, and then the Grand Clash happened, and I think everybody realised it's not that big a thing, but it is still a very handy card because it pushes everybody. It's useful if you're going up against someone who's after objectives. It's useful if you're going up against someone who just wants to come and mash you in the face. So that's why it's in my deck. Misdirection. I saw this played in the final, and it's a card I've never really rated before, but actually I reckon it could be an absolute beauty of a card. So that's why I've taken Misdirection. Shifting Shards. I am after objectives and I am fast, but having one a little bit closer to me might be quite handy, so that's why I've taken that one. And Sidestep. Nothing much to say about this one. It's a manoeuvring card, and I'm all about the manoeuvrings with my Skaven, so that'll be a handy one for me, either to push someone a bit closer, push someone a bit further away, depends on how things are going in the game. So that is my deck. It's a 20 card deck. I know there's a lot of 22, 24, I've even seen 26s, and there was a 30 at the Grand Clash, a khorne deck with 30 cards. I'm trying to stick to 20. I want to try and chop things right down. There were so many other cards that I could have taken. I pretty much could have made an entire deck using just the cards that I didn't take in this deck. Maybe I'll do that. I might try that actually and see how well that one does. It might be better than the one I actually thought would be good. But there we are. There are my Skaven cards. I'm hoping that my objectives are spread out enough that I will be able to score stuff nearly every time, that I haven't got to rely on certain cards coming out at the beginning, middle and end. But if they do come out where I need them, then I'll score even more. and it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. I do love my Skaven, I do love my Sepulchral Guard. I think they play very differently. Well, obviously they play very differently. They've got incredibly different speeds on them, different stats, different numbers. So that's my deck. Please let me know what you thought of it. Please let me know what you think about the whole meta change that people have been going on about, and how the Grand Clash has affected your view on the different cards. I'm definitely trying out a few new ones in here that I saw in the Grand Clash and thought, oh, maybe they'll work. And, you know, I guess I'll find out when I meet Robin on Friday. Bye!